Is Silicon Valley living in some kind of make-believe world?
It always
where there are 140 unicorns prancing around.
This isn't new. This is what Silicon Valley does. Yes, it is kind of terrific. I mean, I like it. I like technology bubbles. I think it's sort of like it throws excessive resources at innovation, at people trying to create things, at entrepreneurship, and some of the companies will work out and be wonderful. You know, the end of the new thing, the end of that book, Jim Clark, who has made a fortune out of the internet bubble. Says he's getting out because he's scared. Why is he scared? Because Kleiner Perkins, the VC firm, has given $25 million to this startup called Google, which he thinks is outrageous. Why would anybody give $25 million to Google? A search engine is a commodity. Everybody knows that. It's a silly name. Nobody knows. I mean, these companies are lottery tickets. You know, that some of them are going to pay off.
Yeah, Matt, what does Bloomberg have to tell us?
Well, I have an interesting snapshot of the last 5 years. So it's a different time period. Obviously, Google was at in the late 90s, early 2000s. But look at this. If you graph venture capital money raised versus tech valuations, they correlate almost perfectly. So it's like as much money as we can raise, that's how much everything's worth, you know? So it doesn't matter.
You find a place to put it. I must say also, I've invested, probably you have, Michael, in a few of these little startups. Not so much.
I've not.
Silicon Valley. Oh, I have. Yeah. And one of the things that I found was you don't know whether your investment is a good investment or not. But as soon as somebody comes in at the next round for a higher valuation, suddenly you think, oh boy, I made a really good investment. Just because somebody else came along and validated your decision.
You know what I've always thought about that? If they're asking me for money, we already have a problem. because you're so far away from the source of the action that if they get to you, it's probably not a good sign. I mean,
so you don't do startups?
No, I'm not a really rich person. But if I were a really rich person, maybe I would just for fun. But no.
No, the reason to do it actually, for me at least, is tuition. It's not that much money they're asking for, and you learn a ton, a ton about working with, and you go on an advisory board, you spend time with them, and you really learn a lot. So it's worth, a few $1,000s to learn.
Will you go back to Silicon Valley and write another book?
I find it such a hard place to write about. The new thing was the single hardest book I wrote, and it's a hard place to write about because there's like a lack of emotional content. It's a cold place. I mean, it's basically a bunch of autistic people wandering around.
Oh my gosh!
And so the lack of emotion, the lack of that people get artificially excited about technology, but it doesn't feel warm or hot. It just.
All right. Well, then, what is your advice? I mean, Dick Costolo, the recent departure from Twitter, former CEO, is now going to be writing for the TV show Silicon Valley. What's your advice to Dick? If it's so hard, if you think it's hard to write about Dick, good luck.
No, so I always have to feel something before I sit down to write. I mean, I usually have some emotional connection to the story. I just had a very hard time feeling much about it.
Even though that's where you live, that's your hood?
Well, I live in Berkeley, so it's on the edge of the hood. I mean, Berkeley's funky. I wouldn't live in Palo Alto. If all I knew of California was Palo Alto, I wouldn't have stayed. It's a nice place to visit. The streets are clean and everybody's rich, but it's not. It's hard. It's hard to find something you love there.
Soul.
Yeah, so it's something about it. I don't know what it is.